All right, Christopher Scott is our guest today. Today we're going to talk about something a little different. They're called artwork on silk, and if you don't really understand what I'm trying to explain here, let's take a picture. Let's get a look at one of these. Christopher will tell us that this is artwork from the other side, from the spirit world, and he joins us now to help us explain, help understand a little bit more. And Christopher, I gotta tell you, I'm sitting here, you know, I spoke with you earlier, and I'm like, well, I don't know. This is a bit much for me to believe.
It is, and let me go with that.
Okay.
Because it was a lot for me to believe. First off, these pictures on silk, what you're seeing there, back in the 80s and things, when I was going to Chesterfield and studying when I was in my teens, there was a guy by the name of Charles Swan. He's passed away since, you know, back 87, 88. And he would lead seance. We'd all come into a room, and you would have your cloth and things. You put your fingers on the edge, and then he would be sitting at the head of the table, and he would have inkwells, chalks, pens, pencils, and things in front of him. And the gist of it is spirit would take the essence of these colors and then precipitate them onto the silk. I thought the same thing. I'm like, yeah, you're, you know, right.
I'm looking at him like, what?
And I did too. So then, you notice I have two of them.
Okay, well, let's take a look at one, and you can explain what we're seeing here. The first one that we're looking at, I don't know. You'll have to tell me. Is this the first or second one?
That's my first one.
Okay.
And what I did, I went back a second time. The second time I went back, I went to like Sofo Fabrics and bought my own piece of cloth, put it in my pocket, and because when you go to the get together, the seance, they hand you a piece of cloth as you walk in, yada yada. So I bought my own, slipped theirs into my pocket, used my own cloth, and there was nothing on it prior, and
you got the same result the second time.
Now, who are the faces? Who are these faces in the picture?
The Indian is a spirit guide, Chief Thundercloud. The other guy with the beard is Dr. Smiley. My grandmother is in the bottom right-hand corner. And also, furthermore, my grandmother, who kind of got me into this entire field, really when I was, you know, very young, when I was 12, she passed away in my teens, but we'd established a code word of connection, which was red rose. If she was to make, you know, to make communication from the other side, as you can see, there's the red rose.
Okay.
And you know, I'm very subjective. You know, we talked about this a little bit earlier. You know, I'm very subjective and look for ways of fraud and stuff like that, and I can't find it here. I brought my own piece of cloth.
So you were amazed by this also?
Yeah. And you don't, and since he's passed away, nobody really does this anymore. They really
how come
don't.
some of the photographs look like they're kind of just actual photographs transferred onto the cloth, and some of them actually look like they've been drawn on? See, there's the second. That's the second one, correct?
Yeah. It's well, basically, I mean, it's just that's just how they appeared onto the cloth. I mean, there's nothing else, you know, put on there like that. I mean, I know how you're saying, you describe it how it looks, but that's what they do. I mean, that's how it comes out, if that makes any sense.
So you're saying that you take this piece of silk, and you're supposed to either fold it or ball it up and put it in your pocket?
No, hold on.
Okay.
When you go to the seance and things, when you walk in, they hand you a piece of cloth, you take your seat, and then it starts. And the atmosphere and the whole thing is very interesting. First off, like you could feel the energy of the room. It's not heavy or intense. The energy is more like, you could feel like, it sounds crazy, but like cobwebs all over yourself. And you can actually almost see these images form onto the cloth, but again, the room is somewhat dark, but it's like a glow onto it. And that's the product that you come out with.
Now, do the pictures, from your experience, did the pictures appear on the individual's cloth that has significance to that individual's life?
Well, you're looking at my cloths, and I'm, you know, here. And this
and
is
you
my
know
life,
what they are.
And I know what they are. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. No one can just randomly hand you that, or if you brought your own cloth and they appear. Do you know what I mean? There's no way. I know it's very confusing. It sounds, you know, really out there, but I'm telling you, this is what's happening.
And why do you think, I mean, what is your explanation for it? Why do you think the spirit world has provided these photos, these pictures on a piece of silk?
Well, some of it is that's physical evidence and things that where they, you know, are trying to make contact and connection. If that makes any sense. In the spirit world, even though, you know, loved ones are passed on deceased, or we have spirit guides and stuff, are in another dimension, but they are still connected to us and around us in our lives. And this is some evidence of that, if that makes sense to you, how I'm explaining it like that.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing that we were talking about earlier is I was saying how a lot of these psychic practices conflict with people's religion or people's Christianity or things of that nature. And I was telling you how, well, you were comparing the humbleness of how you're supposed to be to God to how you connect to the spirit world in much the same way. Can you go through that a little bit?
Yeah, with humbleness and humility, first off, humility is the key to the universe. And when you pray, as we've been taught, your knees and clasped hands and things like that, to be humble before God. But going with humility and humbleness, it's very important to have that. Like I told you earlier, for example, you know how when somebody that you're very close to passes away, and you're going through the grieving process, your self-esteem and image is very low because you're grieving. You have a lot of scattered emotions, and people talk about how they can still feel, hear, see, smell this individual around them, even though they passed away. Look at the circumstances, the esteem, your ego, is very low. The scattered emotions, you're very primed to make the connection. Humility is very important to make that connection. It really is. And prayer is also a very important part. At least people say, Chris, what can I do to grow psychically? What can I pray? A spiritual connection and a spiritual growth, and prayer does all that. It's food for the soul to help you do that.
Now, I was admitting to you that the whole thing's a little sketchy to me. I don't know if it jives with my my principles and my values and all that. And you were telling me that. You were kind of telling me what you tell people that are afraid of having a psychic reading.
And what I tell people is, first off, just say perchance you on a fluke, hypothetically here, just go get a reading. It could be just for the entertainment, okay? But you also are saying
2 years. I don't think I've ever sneezed on the air.
But also, with any reading, you say that you have a tendency to obsess about things. You get a second opinion. It's like going to a doctor or a lawyer. Always get a second opinion. And my intentions is like, if you just come to me for an appointment, this is what I want for you when you leave my door after the appointment, is to give you insight, knowledge, and information that you can take and use as tools to give you a sense of empowerment over your life and future. Not that this is written in stone and has power over you, that you are empowered to shape and build and influence your future according to how you see it and how you feel.
Now, do you think it's your responsibility to give people that insight? I mean, or should people individually get their own insight from their own creator?
Being in this business,
of course, I know the answer.
Yeah, being in this business, I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility in what I tell people and how I tell them, and when they leave, how I've given it to them, what they're going to do. Because sometimes I'm telling you, there's all sorts of people that come for the appointments, but sometimes, I mean, there are people that you have to be very cautious with and how you deliver things. I do tell you everything that I'm picking up, no matter how crazy it may sound, or may make sense to you, if it doesn't for me. But there's a sense of responsibility in how you tell them and what you tell them and how you deliver to them so they can digest it. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And
yeah, there's a hell of a responsibility with it. There really is.
Okay.